teachers of Reddit, what are your stories of, oh god, this child is a sociopath? Had a high school freshman who was a very boisterous kid and youthful for his age. One day he was being disruptive and acting up, so I asked him to step out of the room with me while my co-teacher continued the lesson. I calmly explained to him why I had taken him out, why his behavior was disruptive, and asked him to be more mindful in the future. He seemed attentive to me and to understand where I was coming from. Then, just as I was about to go back in with him, he says to me, "Okay, I'm gonna start crying so everyone thinks you yelled at me." I immediately put the brakes on. I asked him why he wanted to do that, why he felt it was okay to lie like that, and why he wanted to make me seem like a bad person when I had been very polite and thought we had had a good interaction. He didn't have any good answers with me, but we had already spent enough time out of class. I got him to agree to go in quietly, and we went on with the lesson. Needless to say, it was a sign of things to come. He turned out to be a gossiping, backstabbing little social monster. The more mature kids learned to keep their distance from him, and he cultivated friendships with other kids who enjoyed his acting out and emulated it. We finished out the year on reasonable terms, but as he went on to other teachers with different classroom styles, his behavior worsened and derailed many classes. This one happened just the other day, and, obviously, I'm going to be anonymous about it to protect the child's identity. Let's call her a B. So, I'm driving a minibus of students home from a basketball practice when suddenly a bee starts screaming, "Did that have peanuts in it? I'm allergic to peanuts." She begins hyperventilating and crying, and actually makes me pull over so she can get off the bus and throw up. We are about 15 minutes from the school, and I'm literally having a panic attack. So, I call the principal and ask what should I do. Do we have an EpiPen on hand at the school, ECT? She seems confused and puts a bee's grandmother on, who tells me she wasn't aware her granddaughter, who is claiming she can barely breathe, had any allergies. When we got back to the school I was about ready to faint and the principal brings out her registration paperwork to show me, no listed allergies. She isn't allergic to anything, it was all an act. The hyperventilating, the crying, even the throwing up, was all for attention. Had a 6-year-old the size of a 9-year-old pin a 4-year-old to a wall, and at least looked like he was trying to feel her up. I walked up behind him and shouted, "What the hell do you think you are doing?" And he immediately backed off and started stuttering trying to explain himself. He would say some fucked up shit too. One time, he walked up to me, a 6-foot tall, bearded man, and said, basically, "Hey mama, let me suck on them titties." Hated that kid. If you told him to do anything, he would intentionally do something to go against what he was told. His parents spoiled him rotten and let him do whatever he wanted. He got away with anything because a former teacher had inadvertently injured him, and his family, who are filthy rich, threatened to sue the dog shit out of the school. He basically had immunity from discipline at school and parents that let him do whatever he wanted. He hated me because I wouldn't put up with his shit. I never hurt him, but I would put him in a halt so that he couldn't move fairly often because he would constantly sucker punch other, smaller kids for just about any reason at all. Even if he just wanted the toy they were holding. Kid was a little sociopath, with parents that were rich enough that they enabled the behavior. I taught a 4-year-old boy who actually scared me because I fear what his future will be. I can see him ended up doing some awful things to people. He would try and kiss and hug girls, and when they didn't want to, he'd hold them tightly and try to anyway, even if they loudly protested. I explained that there is no kissing in school, and if someone doesn't want to hug, they absolutely do not have to. I also said that some people don't like hugging. He said, well, I want her to, so she will. He just couldn't understand boundaries of any kind. This is just one tiny example of the things he did. I did refer him as I believe he has autism and he's undergoing assessment now and awaiting a diagnosis, but I worry there's something else there with him. He would also watch other children to see how he should act. For example, a child might be sad and another child comforts them. He would copy this behavior, but totally exaggerate it, like completely over the top, and use it as an excuse to touch others, mainly girls. He never showed any emotion other than anger and jealousy. He had a very scary look in his eyes and I've never met another child like him. Not a teacher, but I only remember the story because I had witnessed the fallout. In 11th grade, there was a girl, let's call her Carol, who was crazy about the cartoon Sonic the Hedgehog, to the point where a teacher threatened to fail her on a writing assignment if she turned in yet another Sonic fanfiction. Instead of actually doing work properly, she handed in an angry letter to the teacher as her assignment. Can't remember what the specifics of that letter were, but I do remember it was such that she got suspended for the remainder of the year. When she came back in grade 12, she had to apologize to everyone in her home or room for her actions the previous year. It's in this apology that she tells us she had a brain tumor the size of Quebec. The kid from Quebec, naturally, yells at her for comparing Quebec to a brain tumor. Edit. Carol did a lot of other stuff besides the angry letter that year. She mentioned in her apology that she got a girl in trouble for vandalism so she, Carol, could get the lead role in a school play. She dressed up as a Grim Reaper for some old person's funeral and accused my friend, whom she never had any prior connection to, of tricking her into thinking the funeral was a Halloween party. Since this happened in May, the excuse was made of toothpicks. She got a 0 on a term, project for math, because she accidentally submitted a poorly written and creepy Sonic fanfiction instead of her assignment. She threw a temper tantrum to get the teacher to change the due date. Nothing came of it. And that's just the stuff she admitted to. Had a kid that is basically Charles Manson. Has been aggressive before. Stabbing kindergarteners with scissors, hitting, biting, scratching. First grade began new behaviors. He would convince other kids to eat crayons, or to go tell other kids to say hurtful things to others. This was also the year he became more controlling over girls. He would invite them to play, then if they didn't do what he said he would get the group to push the girl out. The result was the girls really wanted his attention. When the girls realized it wasn't worth it and began abandoning him, he became aggressive again. This year, 2nd grade, he has begun trying to find like-minded kids and create a gang of bullies. Of course the staff are trying our best to curtail the behaviors, but the parents are very litigious. Multiple school psychologists and social workers have recommended individual therapy and social minutes, but the parents insisted it wasn't needed. They said that we were lying about the behaviors and wanted their own social services person to come in for observation. So obviously the student was on his best behavior. He is not stupid by any means. He knew what was up. The parents then used those findings to stonewall us for 6 more months. I do not believe any child beyond saving. But there are kids that really cannot be saved by public schools. This kid needs more social/psych minutes, smaller classes, and more adult attention. We just don't have the money to provide that, especially when parents want to fight us every step tooth and nail. Not a teacher, and it took me a long time to put 2 and 2 together on this one. But when I was in high school, a long time ago, I sat next to a kid my freshman year in science class. He got picked on a little bit, was kind of a loner, but even though we went to separate grade schools, I had sort of known HM for a long time. Anyway, I had lost my ID card early in the year and obtained a new one. Toward the end of the school year, he tapped my arm and said, "Is that your ID card under your desk?" I looked, and sure as heck, that was the ID card I had lost. I was shocked that somehow I had not noticed it, especially having gone into that room every day for the school year, and, of course, it later dawned on me that he stole it and put it there. His shit-eating grin should have been a dead giveaway. Anyway, a couple of weeks later he straight up murdered his younger brother. He was tired of all the attention his younger bro got. He hid a butcher knife in his bedroom, lured his younger brother into some roughhousing shenanigans, and when they got to the bedroom he stabbed the younger boy to death. It was statewide news, because my classmate became the first minor to be tried as an adult in the state. Not a teacher, but was a camp counselor. He was 12 to 14, talked a lot about parodies on YouTube that talked about killing people. He was talking to me about a Frozen parody of "Do you want to build a snowman?" but something along the lines of "Do you want to see a dead body?" or something. He mostly talked to me and not the other children, as he kept to himself. I told him we weren't going to talk about that stuff at camp. He also had a little brother, 6yo, I had in my camp group once, more of a little shit, Swore a lot and threatened the other kids a lot too. He also thought he was more mature than the other kids. Like when another camper his age asked a question a 6-year would generally ask, he would respond with "for fuck's sakes" and rolled his eyes. What I understood, parents weren't in the picture and were being raised by grandma and grandpa. Met them a few times briefly on pickup and they seemed like generally nice grandparents.